The first warning was not the sight of soldiers, it was the sound of bells. Across the medieval countryside, church bells began to ring in a pattern everyone understood. War was coming. An enemy army had crossed the border, and nobody knew which village would be attacked first. For ordinary people, there was no time to debate. Families grabbed whatever they could carry: bread, tools, blankets, a cooking pot, and perhaps a small wooden chest containing everything they owned. Livestock was driven from the fields, grain was hidden beneath floorboards or buried in sealed containers. Anything that could not be taken was sometimes destroyed, so the enemy could not use it. Then the roads filled with people: farmers, merchants, children, monks, and craftsmen, all moved toward the nearest fortified town or castle. Behind them, smoke might already be rising from abandoned farms. An attacking army needed food, horses, wood, and shelter. Villages outside the walls were easy targets. Inside the castle, the gates were closed, the drawbridge was raised, heavy wooden doors were reinforced with iron bars. Soldiers climbed the walls and watched the horizon. Archers checked their bowstrings. Crossbowmen prepared bolts. Stones, timber, sand, and buckets of water were carried to the battlements. But the defenders were not only knights. Blacksmiths repaired weapons and armor. Carpenters strengthened gates and built barricades. Bakers worked through the night because hundreds of frightened refugees had to be fed. Women carried water, treated wounds, prepared food, and helped defend the walls when necessary. Children gathered arrows, delivered messages, and stayed close to their families in the darkest corners of the fortress. Then the enemy arrived. From the walls, the people could see banners moving across the fields. Hundreds of soldiers formed lines beyond the range of the archers. Tents appeared, horses were tied to wooden posts. Siege engineers began measuring the ground. Soon, the attack began. Arrows darkened the sky. Stones crashed against the walls. Soldiers advanced behind wooden shields, while others pushed ladders toward the battlements. If the enemy had enough time, they might build a battering ram, dig tunnels beneath the walls, or construct enormous siege engines. The defenders fought back with everything they had. Archers fired from narrow openings in the stone. Heavy rocks were dropped onto soldiers below. Water and sand were used to fight fires started by flaming arrows. Anyone who reached the top of a ladder faced spears, axes, and desperate defenders protecting their families. But the greatest danger was not always the battle. It was hunger. A siege could last for weeks or even months. Food was carefully counted. Fresh meat disappeared first. Then came salted fish, dried peas, old grain, and anything else that could be eaten. Wells had to be protected because without clean water, the castle could not survive. Disease spread quickly in the crowded fortress. The injured lay beside the sick. Smoke from cooking fires filled narrow rooms. Rats searched for food in the darkness. Every day, the people watched the enemy camp and wondered which side would run out of supplies first. Some castles surrendered. The defenders might negotiate safe passage, pay a ransom, or open the gates in exchange for mercy. But mercy was never guaranteed. If an army captured a castle by force, the soldiers might loot everything inside. Other castles survived. A relief army might appear on the horizon. The attackers might run out of food. Disease could spread through their camp. Winter could arrive. And sometimes, after weeks of waiting, the enemy simply packed their tents and disappeared. When the gates finally opened, the survivors stepped outside. The fields had been trampled, houses had been burned, crops had been stolen or destroyed. The war might have moved on, but life could not simply return to normal. The people rebuilt because they had no other choice. They repaired roofs, planted new crops, buried the dead, and prepared for the next harvest. For most medieval people, surviving a war was not about glory, honor, or heroic battles. It was about protecting your family, finding food, reaching the walls before the gates closed, and staying alive until the bells finally stopped ringing.